District regular board meeting of April 25th, 2017. Let the record show that all board members are present except Mr. LaFurla and President Arthur. Mr. Wilson, can you please call the order? Please. Thank you.
Grove,
Present.
Mr. Kazire,
Present.
Dr. Ogres,
Present.
Ms. Riley,
Present.
Mr. Hanson.
Present.
Would you all stand for a moment of silence and then the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first on our agenda, we are proud of our schools and introductions. Dr. Bruckner.
We are proud of our school, and tonight we have someone to come tell us why we should be proud of our school. We were able to do this last year, and it was such a hit that our National Honor Society from Thomas Jefferson participated again. So I am very pleased to introduce you to Deb Weilage from Family Inc., who is going to make a presentation to our National Honor Society representative.
I'm just here. We have, for probably the last 14 to 18 years, done a Dr. Seuss literacy event, and the last probably 6 to 8 years, we've opened it up to the public and for everyone and anyone that would like to attend. And this year and last year both, we could not have done it without the help of the National Honor Society students from TJ, and I'm so thankful that they are excited to make us their community project. They did that last year, and they also did it this year for their spring project. On March 2nd, we had 672 people that attended. That's adults and children. The youth that helped us, we had 46 youth volunteers. Many of those were the TJ National Honor Society students. They assisted in a variety of ways. Some of them dressed up as Dr. Seuss characters and were greeters. Some of them dressed up as a minion and read books to the kids, and Dory, and we just had lots of costume characters, and we really focus on literacy during the evening, so there's lots of reading that goes on. Arthur also came and was a guest reader for the event, along with Matt Walsh and several other people that were in attendance as guest readers. We had 31 agencies that were also there in attendance. They're support agencies for the families. If they're not aware of the helps in the community, they're there. One of the new groups that came this year was the health insurance agencies, because many of them with the new policies or the new agencies, we felt like the parents needed to know what was available to them. So we had all three of the agencies that deal with Medicaid that were there to actually talk to the parents too. 31 agencies. We had a book fair. Barnes & Nobles came over and had a book fair for us, which was great since we don't have a bookstore here in town any longer. Also, the students helped to give away over 300 books that were freely given to each of the children that were in attendance. So we love the event, but we could never do it without the support of the students. The other thing that we're going to be doing here in the near future is, because of the literacy event being so much fun, we've decided that we're going to have a Dr. Seuss 5K run, but it's going to be literacy based, and it's going to encourage families to come out and celebrate and have fun as a family. We're going to have, and I do have a flyer for each of the board members and a packet that tells you about what Family Inc. does. I feel like we do so much for the community through our I Smile program, through our Parents as Teachers program, and I'm hoping maybe some night I can come and just really tell you more about the program, but I thought tonight this is focused on our TJ students and their wonderful gifts and talents that they share. The comments, I wanted to share this because they were part of it. The comments, we always have a survey that we do at the end, and 3 of the comments that were given were there were incredible vendors, friendly volunteers. That was you guys. And one of the parents, she had never attended before, said, It was an awesome resource for parents who are new to parenting, and she is a parent of a 13-month-old and a 3-year-old. So we're trying to reach children early and families early with literacy, and with their help, we were able to reach a lot. So I'd like the TJ National Honor Society students, officers to come up. I have a plaque for them. In appreciation, this is a certificate of appreciation. This certificate is awarded to the Thomas Jefferson National Honor Society in recognition, and we kind of figured out how many hours you guys had involved altogether, in recognition of 134 volunteer hours donated. Thank you, we could never do it without
I want to give a special shout out
Thank you.
to Deb Goodman, who is here tonight, and I had the honor of going to the National Honor Society induction at Thomas Jefferson, and Deb was given a standing ovation and lots of kudos for the wonderful work that she's done over many years. Are you even listening?
Thank you, thank you. And Deb Weilage, you can come to any board meeting and talk. We have public participation at every board meeting, so come back anytime. Thank you for coming. Thank you. All right, now we move on to approval of our agenda.
I move approval of our agenda as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And motion approved. Approval of the minutes for special meeting of April 6, 2017, special meeting of April 7th, 2017, special meeting of April 8th, 2017, and regular meeting of April 11th, 2017. Is there a motion?
I move approval of the minutes as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carried. Public participation. This is an opportunity for the members of the public to address the board regarding agenda items or other matters of concern. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak? A little bit of a debate? Nope. Okay, seeing none. We're moving on to the superintendent's report in student achievement. Dr. Bruckner.
I'm sorry, Dave, just direct me, tell me. And then when I'm done, I put it back to something else. Media player. Media player.
It's too late.
I like to make everybody feel like they're absolutely essential to me. That's why. It is my opportunity to give you a quarterly update about our strategic plan that's been going on, this one since 2013. And I'm going to go through this very quickly because all of the board members have a report about it. And then we're going to spend most of our time hearing about one specific strategy, and that's 5.1. So you all recall that the mission of our district is to guarantee every student graduates with the appropriate knowledge, skills, and character to become a responsible citizen and succeed in the changing world that they're going to face. In order to do that, we have, this year, we're working on 13 different plans. You got detailed explanation of what's happened in the last 3 months, but I'll just very quickly tell you that for 1.1, where we're focusing professional development on instructional practices, we feel that this is a complete plan. We're going to continue to monitor it, but our work here is ongoing. 1.4, clearly communicate information to the community about achievement. You read about many of the ways that we're trying to do that. This is difficult because sometimes it's hard to explain our achievement in words that resonate with the community, but we're continuing to do that work. 1.7, we also feel is complete, but we're going to continue to monitor it, and that is to have a systemic protocol for determining movement when we're doing literacy intervention. 2.1, increase district-wide family engagement. This is something that's never quite done, but our teams have been working on it closely. One of the biggest thrills we've had from the last month is the hiring of a part-time bilingual liaison who's going to reach out to families of English learners. But we're also continuing our work as described related to providing resources for all of the schools. 2.3, initiate a district-wide program to increase area business district connections and awareness. One of the things that we're doing there is a change of the concept related to Grow CB that is going to involve our community, our businesses more closely. We have a report on that coming in May. 2.4 talks about continuing our work to have a positive, respectful interactions whenever you're communicating with anyone in our staff, and there's a survey coming in early May to allow people to give us ongoing feedback on how well we're doing. 3.3 is, now that the legislature is over, we tried to keep our legislative advocates aware of what was going on. Many of them were involved in meetings with at legislative coffees, et cetera, in communicating to our legislators by email, et cetera. We did not necessarily get everything we wanted. 4.1, a comprehensive approach to provide with necessary training for all the different groups. Thanks very much to Melissa Chalupnik, who has been working specifically in increasing our training for paraeducators and administrative assistants. And we've done a much more thorough job this year than ever before and have plans to continue that into next year. 5.1 is doing wonderful work, and I'm not going to spoil that parade. So I'm going to have Corey Borthman give you some detailed information about that later on. Also was included in the packet. 6.2, PK-12 System of Interventions for Behavior and Mental Health. There are tools that they've been working on that are going to be shared with our administrative staff in early May. So we're going to continue that work, I'm sure, into the next year. 6.5, educational opportunities for staff, students, and parents to understand substance abuse, mental health, and behavior issues. The team that's working on this is putting together a resource guide, and they're also collaborating with 2 other teams related to 2 other strategies so that we have, for instance, information about substance abuse, et cetera, in our personal health curriculum, which you'll also be hearing about later this school year. 7.4 has to do with innovative technology-based learning experiences for students to do all of those different C words, as well as organize, share, and publish. And we think that's complete, but we're still continuing to monitor it. But we've really put a lot of energy into that this year. And the final one is 7.5, where we're expanding the number of portable computing devices for PK2. And we're complete with the work that we're going to do for this year. We're monitoring it, and the report that you have says we're moving on to 7.6 for next year. So that's a really quick summary of the work that we're doing to continue to push our children, our students, towards graduating with all of the skills that they need to be able to be successful. May I answer any questions before I give you, I'm the opening act for the real presentation tonight. Okay, then I am going to I pushed media player, but that didn't seem, oh, there it is. Okay.
Can I? Good evening.
Good evening.
It's my pleasure tonight to bring you an update on the work that a very diligent and committed team of educators has been working on for the past year regarding Strategic Plan 5 and specifically Action Step 5.1. I want to start tonight by reviewing what we committed to do at the beginning of the year. What you'll see up there is the strategy itself, that we would develop a system where we would improve and measure students' college and career readiness, and specifically with regard to Action Step 5.1, we would look at the most important academic, non-cognitive skills that would help students be successful, and we would evaluate them on an ongoing basis. So that's what we set out to do. That was our why. This work was not done by myself alone. It was completed by work of hardworking, committed educators who represented a wide variety of schools, roles, stakeholders, areas of expertise. I'm honored to have two of them here tonight. Deb Goodman and Kyle Forney were both instrumental as members of this team that pushed us forward and kept us thinking about how we might operationalize this plan for the benefit of all of our students. This team, as you can see, had representatives from all of our secondary schools, as well as the Educational Service Center. It also included staff members who are also parents within our school district, because we wanted to make sure that we had identified concerns that would also be important for students and families as well. This team met for over almost a year, since about the third week of school until about 2 weeks ago, meeting once a month for 2 hours after school to complete the work that I'm about to share with you tonight. So I thank them for their commitment to this cause. You'll notice in the strategic plan, the action step, it specifically mentions two words, college and career ready. And I want to pause for a moment and ask you to consider the four phrases that I've put up on the screen. If you've read anything related to educational literature or even had the television on in the past 5 years, you've probably noticed these terms somewhat used synonymously. College ready, or career ready, or college and career ready, or is it college or career ready, or is it college and or career ready? And as the team grappled with this, we didn't want to undo any of the hard work that our strategic planning teams had done, but we wanted to create greater context around what did it really mean in Council Bluffs to be college and career ready. And unfortunately, as many times jargon in education takes on a life of its own, and words such as college and career ready becomes used so much that they become meaningless. So, in Council Bluffs, we decided we were not going to stick with the pack and use college and career ready like everyone else and allow everybody else to define it. We were going to define it for ourselves. So I'm proud to announce to you tonight the launch of our CB Future Ready initiative. CB Future Ready combines the very best of what we would expect to prepare students for life after school. It's more than preparing them for one single career or to be successful during a 2-year or a 4-year degree. It's about preparing them to be successful citizens and to be ready for whatever life confronts them with as they leave our school building. That's what it means to be future ready. We're not going to segregate kids into camps where some of them are career ready and others are college ready. It is our commitment to make sure, as Dr. Bruckner said at the beginning of our presentation tonight, that all students graduate with the knowledge, skills, and ability to be successful citizens in our ever-changing world. That's what it means to be CB Future Ready. So tonight I want to bring you 3 key points regarding the work that we have accomplished thus far with regard to Strategic Plan 5.1. I want to share with you specifically the indicators that the team has developed in order to measure progress over time and provide progress reports to students and parents. I want to share with you some of the tools that we'll use to support the implementation of Strategic Plan 5.1 with our staff members as well as with families. And then I want to share with you some of the strategies that we've developed for measuring this strategic plan to make sure that we're reaching the needs of all of our students. So when it comes to academic indicators, the team looked at a wide cross-section of research that's available around what are the indicators that matter most, that have the greatest predictive value, and what does that look like in Council Bluffs? And there are hundreds of different indicators to choose from. And I'm not suggesting that we chose absolutely the right ones. They were the ones that made the most sense for the team of educators that were tasked with solving this issue in the strategic plan. So what I'm going to share with you tonight are 5 academic indicators that the team believes will help communicate to students and families their level of progress that they are making towards becoming future ready. The team was adamant that we are not going to use these measures to punish students or to say that if they're not there right now, they won't get there. The indicators are designed to show a snapshot in time of progress over time. There is you will never be future ready enough for whatever life throws at you. Our goal is to make sure that kids have the ability to tackle whatever comes their way with to the very best of their ability. So the academic indicators that we landed on were, first of all, grade point average. We landed on grade point average because we believe it's a strong indicator of how well students are doing in their academic coursework. So it takes all of their courses together and aggregates them in a way that assigns some grade points based on how their academic performance is in that class. So for us in Council Bluffs, that's on a scale of 1.4, with advanced courses carrying an additional 1.0 grade point. Second indicator is attendance. There's a tremendous amount of research that supports that attending school on a regular basis, in fact, missing fewer than 10% of the days in a given school year, lead to better academic outcomes for students. That's, as you well know, well documented, especially with our participation in the Campaign for Grade Level Reading and our continued success as winners of Pacesetter Awards for our work in that endeavor. Thirdly, the team was very adamant that students must earn credits beyond the minimum. While 48 credits is what will meet our core graduation requirements, in order for students to be future ready, they must earn credits beyond 12 to be a freshman, 24 to be a sophomore, 36 to be a junior, and 48 to be a senior. Fourth, the team believed that involvement was a critical component to making sure that children have opportunities to experience things beyond school. And that means belonging to something bigger than yourself, to making a commitment and being responsible to be a part of a team, to be a part of a music group, to have a part-time job, to be involved in community service, to babysit for your little brother or sister, something that enables them to take on greater responsibility outside of the school day. So community and activity involvement will include the number of activities our students are involved in outside of the regular school day. It has to be something. And lastly, we wanted to put emphasis on planning and goal setting. We have to create students who are able to set goals, make plans, and be ready to achieve them. Planning for school and beyond begins with creating a 4-year high school course plan, planning for education after high school, planning for a career, and developing long-term educational, career, and life goals. So those are the 5 academic indicators. As I included in your board packet, the team took a long time to identify how we were going to define non-cognitive. In Strategic Plan 5.1, the strategic plan team used the term non-cognitive, which has many different applications. Some of the research suggests that non-cognitive refers to value structures, characteristics, 21st century skills, social emotional learning, or a plethora of all the above. And when it got down to it, we tried to identify what we believed was going to be most impactful if we could focus our energy on helping students prepare for life beyond high school, being future ready. And we unanimously agreed that it was focusing on social emotional learning. So the research is pretty clear around social emotional learning. In a research study that was conducted by Domenici, Sambold, and Kidron, they said that when schools promote students' academic, social, and emotional learning, students will possess the basic competencies, work habits, and values for engaged post-secondary education, meaningful careers, and constructive citizenship. This certainly doesn't mean that it's not important for us to focus attention on the 4 C's: communication, creativity, collaboration, and critical thinking. But the team believed very strongly that much of that work is now embedded in the Iowa Core standards. We do not do work in isolation outside of those 4 C's on almost a daily basis in our classroom. They are an embedded part of the Iowa Core, and you can see them in almost every one of our classrooms on a daily basis. So we believe that the focus on social emotional learning would pay a greater dividend at this time. So what is social emotional learning? We didn't reinvent the wheel. We looked at what was out there and what research showed had good proven results. And we landed on a framework that has been produced by the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning called CASEL. And they've identified 5 dimensions of social emotional learning. They include self-management. Self-management is the ability to manage emotions and behaviors to achieve one's goals, such as regulating emotions, managing stress, self-control, self-motivation, and setting and achieving goals. Secondly, self-awareness. Self-awareness means recognizing one's emotions and values as well as one's strengths and challenges. It includes labeling one's feelings, relating feelings and thoughts to behavior, accurate self-assessment of strengths and challenges, self-efficacy, and optimism. Third, social awareness. Social awareness includes showing understanding and empathy for others. It's about perspective taking, empathy, respecting diversity, understanding social and ethical norms of behavior, recognizing family, community, and school supports. Fourth is relationship skills, forming positive relationships, working in teams, dealing effectively with conflict. This includes building relationships with other individuals and groups, communicating clearly, working collaboratively, resolving conflicts, and seeking help. And last, responsible decision-making, which is a culmination of all 4. This results in making ethical, constructive choices about personal and social behavior. This considers the well-being of self and others, recognizes that one's responsibility to behave ethically, bases decisions on safety, social, and ethical considerations, evaluating realistic consequences for various actions, making constructive, safe choices for self, relationships, and school. These 5 indicators will make up the social emotional indicators of the Council Bluffs Community School District. And with the help of people who are much more creative than I, they will become the profile of a Council Bluffs Future Ready graduate. Council Bluffs Future Ready graduate will not only possess 48 credits in the content areas designed by our board policy, but students will also be given the opportunity to self-monitor progress based on these 10 indicators. And we will measure progress annually to see if we're getting better as a school district. So how do we support the implementation? This is the million-dollar question. There are many, many good ideas that we have implemented in our school district. Some, I think, have been very well established based on good research, but have not been implemented as well as we would like to have them implemented. One of them is the employability rubric, or the college and career rubric, which is built on strong research, is similar to what I'm discussing tonight. These 10 indicators will replace the college and career rubric, or the employability rubric that accompanies the report card. And I'll show you some additional reporting and functionality of measurement that we believe will help make this process more meaningful for students, more efficient for teachers, and more valuable to parents. So as we roll this implementation out, we want to be able to support teachers so that they have the tools they need to be able to monitor and have conversations with young people about these 10 indicators. In addition, we want them to have the tools that they need to be able to actively provide instruction that enables students to improve, especially in the social emotional learning areas. You'll notice earlier in the spring, we brought you a proposal for Naviance. And I said I promised that I would be back to tell you more about Naviance. So Naviance is our new career and information system, which is designed to help track all of the components that are on the academic side, with an active parent portal that allows parents to have an active role in monitoring and guiding their students through four-year planning and post-secondary planning as well. It also allows for interactivity between students, parents, and families among decisions that are being made for high school courses, scholarships, and beyond. So I want to share with you very briefly what Naviance has to offer.
A lot of students today have questions about their futures. Some don't know what they're going to do with their lives, while others may know but have no idea how to get there. The problem is, students don't always get the personalized attention and guidance they need, so they don't see a link between what they're doing in the classroom and what they hope to do in the future. Families often want to help, but don't know how they can get involved. And school counselors are spending way too much time on paperwork, just trying to keep track of all their students, which makes it impossible for them to prepare individual plans for each one. And although many school and district administrators see a problem, they lack needed to in career readiness. Most schools could put each student on a personalized path to future success, and school counselors and administrators could provide expert guidance to students about college visions. Well, that's the story behind Naviance. It's a comprehensive career readiness solution that empowers students and families, learning and life, and provides schools and districts with the information they need to help students prepare for life after high school. Naviance allows students to create a plan for their futures by helping them discover their individual strengths and learning styles, and explore career options based on their results. Gives the students tools to search for colleges based on their interests, determine which courses they need to take to reach their goals, and identify areas of improvement. Once students are ready, Naviance makes it easy for them to apply to colleges, look for scholarships, and track their admission status. It even allows families to track their students' progress and communicate with school counselors. But that's just part of the story. Naviance also makes student success planning easy for schools and districts by offering quick access to student data and goals, automation of routine tasks such as email communications, student surveys, and submission of college application materials, and the tools to measure the effectiveness of their school's college and career preparation. Schools and districts can identify which students need the most help and put them on the right path for success. Plus, track outcomes for all their students to see how many get into college, where to college, and whether or not they graduate. The end result is that schools and districts are better equipped to make informed decisions and prepare students for college and their futures. And students will have a better understanding of what they want to be and how to get there. Learn more at Naviance.com.
Pretty impressive. The second tool that we will be providing for our staff and for our parents and families is a product called Panorama, and this is relating to the social emotional side. So I want to provide for you quickly a snapshot of what Panorama can do.
Student voice means to me that we're trying to get our voice out there in the district so the district sees what goes on in school. Because I feel like not all the time the district actually comes to school and figures out what's going on in social norms. So these surveys really help if they're honest. And I feel like the more honest we are, the more the district can really see why children want this change to happen. The social
Hang on a
emotional
second. I'm gonna let this buffer for just a second.
That looks like Utah.
This is actually Las Vegas, at Lake Tahoe, Washoe County. I know the associate superintendent there and have visited with them several times about this product and what it has done for their school district. And you'll see tears in the eyes of the superintendent when she talks about this work in their school.
Student voice means to me that we're trying to get our voice out there in the district so the district sees what goes on in school. Because I feel like not all the time the district actually comes to school and figures out what's going on in social norms. So these surveys really help if they're
Maybe not. Well, you have to take my word for it. That Panorama what Panorama does is it identifies through a series of survey questions how students perceive themselves related to the 5 domains of social emotional learning. It then asks teachers to identify how they perceive students based on the 5 domains of social emotional learning, and then provides teachers and students feedback on how they can improve on the 5 domains, and provides teachers with resources related to the individual needs of students that they can use for classroom instruction. Then it also provides reporting to parents and families around how their students are doing with regard to these 5 domains. It's one of the critical pieces that we hear often from parent-teacher conferences. Parents don't typically want to know how their students are doing on individual assignments. They can look that up on PowerSchool. What they want to know is, how is my student behaving in class? Do they have friends? Are they respected? Are they kind to each other? Do they work hard? Is their work turned in on time? Do they have a strong work ethic? Are they able to advocate for themselves? Those are the things parents want to know. And we're going to give teachers the tools to be able to have those conversations with parents about how their students are doing with regard to these 5 social emotional learning areas. The last tool, which I've talked about several times, is iCurio, and this is our new repository for digital resources that will have a dedicated folder for resources from a company called 180 Degrees. 180 Degrees is the most comprehensive program available for social emotional learning in grades 6 through 12. We have are entering into a partnership with them where they will provide their curriculum to us in a digital format so that we will be able to harness the ability of our one-to-one initiative and put good quality lessons in the hands of teachers that are aligned to these 5 social emotional learning areas. So how will we get this all done? That's a great question. The primary vehicle that we will be using for this is advisement. Advisement is the period that is in each of our secondary schools that is designed to provide an opportunity for an adult advocate in a building to serve as both an advocate for a student in a small setting and a liaison between the student and family to provide that student with individualized care and support. These classes are typically from 12 to 15 students, and they are designed to provide an individualized snapshot of what it means to have a caring adult in every school for every child. All of our buildings committed to using advisement as the delivery model for delivering social emotional learning as well as college and career planning. This is not going to happen like flipping on a light switch. That is not our expectation. We are going to start with a very small pilot group next year, and it will be based on volunteers. Teachers will get to choose if they would like to do this next year. We will also be using Summer Academy as our kickoff. We have secured Rosalind Wiseman and Dr. Thomas Hoare, 2 leading experts on the importance of social emotional learning, to be the keynote speakers at our summer learning to kick off this initiative. And then we will use basically influence from other teachers and a rollout over the next 2 years to build capacity in our staff to feel confident and comfortable in having these conversations and using these products with our students. So how are we going to measure? With regard to measurement, we have a mock-up of what our vision would be. So as students have a traditional report card, we would also like to provide them a progress report on a triannual basis related to their progress over time on the academic and social emotional learning indicators. This would also come with the definitions of each one of them, what they mean and how they are interpreted. And you can see on the left, the academic indicators with the little graduation caps represent how far that student is on the continuum to being future ready. It's not about penalizing a student or giving them a grade for their work. It's about showing them and having a conversation with the student and a family where they are presently, and then providing support to help them grow where they need additional help, both on the academic side and the social emotional side. Specifically related to the social emotional side, we're going to provide students and families with a snapshot of how students perceive themselves in the 5 areas of social emotional learning, how teachers perceive their student in the 5 areas of social emotional learning, as well as tips for what they can do to improve in each one of those areas. We are very excited and proud of the work that we've done for 5.1. It's been our pleasure to tackle this important strategic plan initiative. Unfortunately, the work has really just begun. I would welcome any of your questions.
So this would be for all secondary. This would be middle school and high school?
Yeah, the team decided that we wanted to start with grades 6 through 12. Mr. Hamilton and I have had several conversations about how we are going to use this work around the social emotional learning to create additional opportunities to embed into our K-12 system over time.
I like what you presented. It sounds really good to me, and I hope it goes as you plan. And I like your approach. But I can imagine there might be some people who object to us going this social emotional route. How are you going to deal with that?
Well, the nice part about the social emotional learning is that, one, it's research-based and has a tremendous amount of learning science behind it. Second of all, it is a absolute severe need in our schools and in our community. And that's the reality of the situation. If you have an opportunity to visit with any of our principals or our teachers, they will tell you that one of the most pressing needs that they have is helping students regulate their own behavior. And one of the things that's missing from our framework right now is a universal tier of instruction. So we've done a really, really good job at providing interventions for small groups of students or students in crisis or students who've had a traumatic experience or have a blow up in school. We're good at responding to that. Where we haven't provided enough guidance is in the prevention and the skills to help students be able to self-regulate themselves before they get to that spot. And that's what this is trying to help us do. We're starting with secondary because we think the entry point is a little bit more logical given where we're at, that we've already had the employability skills rubric. This is a kind of a one step beyond that in a little bit greater depth. We believe that there will be an opportunity for elementary to experience this in the years to come as well.
Well, I don't disagree with anything you said, but I would imagine there might be some parents out there that will disagree with that. Don't want you brainwashing my kid?
I'm not sure what that means. I'm sorry.
Well, this whole area of social development is, I think, in some circles, quite controversial. I think that's why we have some parents opting to do homeschooling. I think that's why we have the voucher thing is out there. It's obviously alive and well in the state of Iowa. Just in the paper today, the Republican caucus is saying this is what we're going to do next year. And I think I like this, I support it, but I'm just a little concerned that there'll be some people who say, don't mess with this. And my question again is, how are we gonna respond to that?
I think if you look at those 5 things that are in orange, self-management, self-awareness, social awareness, et cetera, we're avoiding some of those hot-button items that I think you're talking about. This is like, do I know my own skills? Do I know what I am good at and what I am not so good at? Do I think I'm good at the same thing my teacher thinks I'm good at? What we have heard for the last decade very clearly, and perhaps more than that, are employers saying to us, you know, I can teach them how to do certain skills in the job. They don't come to me ready to do that learning. And I think this is trying to deal with that part of it. How do we get kids ready to understand? I've never not answered Gail Wickersham's phone before. That may have been a mistake. I think this is what employers are saying to us is, it's not the knowledge they don't come with, it's the soft skills, is the term that people use.
And Mr. Grove, to your point, I do appreciate it, because like any new initiative, it does not always come with unanimous support. And we will be very respectful of parents who have concerns about this. We'll listen to their concerns, and we'll try to meet the needs of their students in the best way we can possible.
Good.
My comments are all over the board, and I apologize for them not
That's
being
okay.
organized. But, okay, so self-management, how well students manage their emotions, thoughts, and behaviors in different situations. That is huge in our classrooms right now, and unfortunately, our teachers are deviating sometimes from academic instruction because they are dealing with students who don't know how to deal with their emotions and thoughts. And they can be bright as a bulb and score perfect on an ACT. I mean, we have kids that are Harvard or bust, but they may not know how to manage their emotions or their thoughts in stressful situations. And unfortunately, that's real life. Whether it be they're not getting it at home or for other reasons, if they can't succeed emotionally in addition to academically, they're not going to be successful in the outside world, no matter what their path is after high school. And so I like what you've created. I wrote down you have measurable data that's academic success in addition to social and emotional indicators, which affects mental components to academic, career, and life successes. You have a framework that you've established. You're going to implement these with students, have a small group that you're going to measure, and I'm curious if you are wanting to publish this as a rubric for other districts to utilize going forward.
Well, we have a lot to learn ourselves before we take our show on the road.
I think
That's why we're starting
This
small.
is, I have never seen this before, and I don't know where, academic institutions are utilizing both social, emotional, and academic indicators. But I have seen other entrances to major universities that are budding with incoming students that may not have that ACT score that they're looking
Sure.
for, but they have the other emotional indicators and they want to be successful with them, so they're coaching them along the way.
Well, I think we've been blessed with Dr. Bruckner's leadership over the past 10 years to really be thinking about how do we meet the needs of the whole child. And this is just a logical extension of how we meet the needs of all of our kids.
And the
We're not
kids are
gonna
going
do
to need
crazy
it.
things. We're not going to get weird with providing all kids with intensive intervention. This is about providing a universal layer of support,
Foundation.
a foundation, so that all students have access to understand how their own minds think, how they can be in control of their own decision-making, and provide them with a very solid set of core skills that help them be in control of their own social and emotional behavior.
Right. I did have one other question.
Sure.
This will require, and I use Sarah Steinmetz because she's the first one that comes to me, but this is going to help the Sarah Steinmetzes that are out there with assisting other kids that aren't getting the attention maybe that they need. And so my other question is, the educators that are facilitating this, are they going to need additional training?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Summer Academy will help us kick that off, but what we hope to be able to do is that group of beta testers to be able to invest in them and help them work with their colleagues, and then we'll provide CBU courses throughout the year as well. We also, Tim and I have had some conversations about how do we use this type of assessment as a universal screener, so that as we look across all of our buildings and our classrooms, how can we help identify children who need something more than just what we're giving them in a universal setting? How can we intervene more rapidly before a student has a situation which interferes with their own learning or impacts the classroom setting? We have to get to the core of that issue if we're going to achieve at greater levels as a school district.
Will this burden them with additional work that they already are expected to do, I guess? I worry about the workload.
The nice thing about, I think the nice thing about this is, one, we're using advisement as the delivery
Okay.
model. And for some, this will create more structure. For some, they already have structures in place and probably don't need this much structure. Two, with the replacement of the employability rubric, it's not doing something new, it's doing something different. So we're taking that off the plate and using this survey platform, which is very efficient and very quick, that allows them to have instant data to be able to have conversations with kids. That's what we want, because the power is not in the data itself. The power is in the teacher being able to use the data to have a meaningful conversation with a young person about how they perceive themselves and what they can do next. That's the power. And then including the family in that conversation about how we can work together, because here's what your child perceives and here's what we perceive. In terms of the academic side, most of those things are going to happen behind the scenes in Naviance as students work through creating four-year plans and advisors work alongside them and giving them guidance. It will enable the counselors to be much more efficient in their work, because much of the things that they're doing will be automated. It will allow parents to have greater access into looking in on what their students are actually thinking about when it comes to college and career planning. So I think that the vision behind this is that it's a win-win-win for everybody. It obviously will require additional commitment, resources, and time. You've been generous to give us the resources. We're trying our best to make sure that we can carve out the appropriate time. And I think teachers are willing to make the commitment because it's going to pay dividends to them in the future by having kids who are more ready to learn on a daily basis.
And more ready to approach maybe some more sensitive topics like social and emotional indicators. So, thank you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but at one point in time, we did include some of these indicators in our grading scale for our students. And when we renewed or redid our grading scale, we eliminated these items because most of the time they were subjective and there was no real framework in which to evaluate the student's score. So I mean, and I think it was very appropriate that we took those things out of the GPA, the academic side of the student's health, but bringing this back in as you say, the social emotional, that's the piece that it appears that we've been missing when we removed that from the academic side for good reason. But now we have that framework in which we can support that student and say, yes, you're doing well academically, but here's where we need to support you in helping you develop your management skills, your emotional skills.
We hope it creates a better, healthy balance
Right.
between both things that are very important to educating the whole child.
Any other questions or comments from board members?
I have one.
Yes.
Okay, so on the little, instead of the rubric, and you get this little hat sliding across the screen there, is most of this going to be just basically the surveys that you have?
Social emotional will be a combination of the student's perception and the teacher's
And the
perception.
teacher's perception?
Correct.
And it's, like I said, it's basically a survey saying, this is where I stand, this is where you stand. Okay, so it's not necessarily, because I understand, Bill, where you're coming from, where we don't want to necessarily step on anyone's toes.
Sure.
You'd be very careful in that, but if it's more of a self-aware and
It
an
is.
observation, that would be a better way for you to, I don't want to say sell it to the public, but that would be a good way to inform them that it's an introvert and extrovert
Yeah. If you.
type of a survey as opposed to an actual subjective, I think your kid is doing this as
Yeah,
opposed to
it's not a
that.
grade. It's not based on,
It's not a daycare report.
nope, not
No.
anything like that. In your packet, I provided some of the research behind the actual questions themselves. The instrument itself is designed by the Harvard School of Education, has been tested for validity and reliability, and I think provides a solid foundation for us to have conversations between adult advocates, students, and their parents about areas in which they have strengths and areas in which they need additional support. And as a parent of two children in the Council Bluffs Community School District, I'm eager to be able to have conversations with my students' teachers about how my sons perceive themselves and how my sons' teachers perceive them and how closely aligned they are or not aligned they are. And what we've seen in the initial pilots is that our teachers think that our students are doing much better than our students think that they're doing.
And we've asked our teachers to make these kind of judgments since
Yes.
we've had the rubric.
Correct.
And we think I think the rubric is a really good addition to some kind of information we're giving students, et cetera. What we haven't ever asked, and I didn't know the fact that you just shared until now, what we haven't really asked is, so Scott, you think you're really, really good at self-awareness, and as your math teacher, or I don't know if that's true, at least we have a reason for a conversation instead of,
right.
all you're getting is my assessment. My sense is this is the kind of attention to individual students that you might see, I'm not going to name a school, but in a very expensive, exclusive, private school for children who can afford to go there. This is not the kind of individual attention that you would normally find in a public school that has a high population of children that are not always necessarily thinking about the future and how to be future ready. So I think your comments are, it's kind of out there on the next level, but as I'm looking at those principles that face me every single meeting, the third one says, we believe every child can learn under the proper circumstances, and we will be relentless in the search of those. I think this is a step in that direction.
I would be a little remiss if I didn't say that the video that you didn't get to see from Washoe County, we're actually behind everybody else on this. Many schools, they've been doing this type of work for the past 6 years. So I don't want you leaving today thinking that we're clearly out on the cutting edge. I think that our implementation, the way we're approaching it, is very strategic and very thoughtful, but it's not new science and it's not based on new learning. It's based on an implementation of sound research, and it's a need. It is an absolute need in our classrooms and in our community. So we appreciate your support and pushing us to consider these things in our strategic plan.
Thank you.
Okay, oh, two things. One, could you send us that link then for the video?
I've already got
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll put it in ABC Notes for you this week.
Okay. And as a parent of 4 children in the Council Bluffs School District, well, 3 now, that was one thing that I always asked when we go. I said, okay, I know he does this, this, and this. Tell me something new. Tell me something I don't know, already know. Because I've been to every parent-teacher conference ever for all of the children. And you're looking for something new. How are they doing? What's going
So
on?
think about
So-
having a report like this for you and your student's advisor to have a conversation on, the 3 of you together, and figure out why Sydney's student believes that when it comes to emotional regulation, she thinks she's a 2. She thinks she doesn't do very well at that. But the teacher thinks she's 4. She's really good at that. And you guys can have a conversation about how to stay relaxed and calm when things are going wrong, and what things she might try to be able to do that. And then you can say, yeah, we see this at home, or no, we really don't see this at home. This must be a school issue that we really need to dig into and figure out what's going on. Those are the types of conversations we want our students and our teachers and our parents to be able to have the opportunity to have together.
Just much more appreciated. Thank you very much for your work.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right. Next on our agenda is informational presentations, a report on new enrollment system.
Mr. Hamilton is going to share, and Mr. McGreevy, going to share information about our current attempt on how we can move forward in helping our parents enroll their children in the most efficient, effective way.
That's correct. Just what she said. Good evening. Thanks for having us again tonight. I will say with what Dr. Vorthman presented, he and I have had several conversations about it. From the student and family services side, and from the presentations that I've been giving month after month about supporting kids, it truly is, we have supports for kids. This is, in my mind, this is a way, like Corey said, to have that universal tier to making sure that the kids that we see, there's plenty of kids out there who are struggling with something that we don't see, and this is a way for us to, another way for us to be able to work with those students. So I'm really excited about the work that he's doing and that we'll continue to do together. So tonight we're going to talk about our e-registration system. You may remember, even before I was here, we've done e-registration. We've done where we sent out very thick pamphlets to every single family and asked them to fill it out. We're asking for families to make sure we have the most updated information on students, if in case there's an emergency, just in case we, when we send things home, when we call them, when we email them. We also are required to get certain permissions each year from families. So last year we went back to really it's a dual system. We offered e-registration so families could get on the computer and update their information and submit it to schools. Schools ultimately have the ability to approve or deny those or to call families and ask questions. They also, families have the opportunity to come to a school and fill out the packet of information. And so we aren't paperless. I think we're going more that way, and we've seen our families want it. More e-registration, but I'm not willing to say we're not going to have paper. I think we still need to have that option for certain families, and we're still doing paper enrollment for new families. So last year we went to an e-registration system. It was fine. It didn't quite meet our needs of schools. We found out as we were working that we needed something that was more, that we were able to more individually tailor to schools, because certain schools have different forms with all the partnerships with banks. There's bank forms, there's parking, there's a lot of different information that with the system we used last year, it had to be a district-wide system. So we were finding that schools were still sending out forms to be signed by families, and we wanted to make it easier for not only for our schools, but for families to have a one-stop shop, so to speak, to fill out information. So we shopped around to find a system that we felt like could meet our needs, that integrates with PowerSchool, and we came up with this e-registration system. We're still working on having it all up and ready. We're hoping that by the first couple weeks of May, that will be our initial request to parents that they can update their information for next school year. So I asked John to come because he is really the guru who's working with the company and getting it all implemented. I asked him to come and just walk you through what it looks like, and we'll just take a couple minutes, and if you have questions along the way, please ask.
So here is the main screen the parents would get to. It is just like the other e-registration system. There's a link in the parent portal on the left side to re-register your student. This is a demo site that they gave us so we could look at it and see what was going on. Next page, simple information about the student. Names, gender, regular stuff we would collect.
it's very responsive, very, so here is a mailing address. You can't see the drop down, but it has yes, no. If it's a yes, it opens up another area you don't see until you click yes. So much more user-friendly than just a screen where just a whole bunch of text files to fill out. Here's the parent side. There's parent 1, parent 2, and a contact 1 for us. And the information, again, if you say parent 2 is living at the same address as a yes, it doesn't drop anything, it'll copy that over from the student. If you say no, it'll pop open a new area for the address of the parent. Emergency contact information, same sort of way. We're really just trying to get a hold of anybody and anybody that could help a student if the first parents aren't able to be contacted. Early dismissal from one of the elementary kids of this information the school would need in case we would have to close early because of snowstorm or ice storm or flood in our cases.
Valid.
Next is the medical information. I mean, Dr. Gogresh should be in there for most every student.
You are hilarious.
If a student has allergies, the parent says yes, it then opens the text box up so the parents can fill it out, otherwise they don't see it. Nice condensed view for them. The next screen is our agreements. We put our computer loan agreement on there so the parents can see it ahead of time before getting to registration and know about it. Also the cooperative loss agreement. And then all of the agreements down here, the photo, video, the internet, the Google account, the code of conduct, and attendance policies that we have to notify and get yearly agreement on are all there, and they will all default to yes. The parent will not be able to select no. There's a statement at the end of all those that if they do not agree, they have to, in writing, let the principals know within 2 weeks of school starting or enrollment. Because, I mean, they need it. Here's the school waiver information. This is for reduced fees. The major one down here is the last one. Again, ask how many people in the household and the monthly income. This is a necessary step for the business office so we can determine the qualification for the student. And the last is the electronic signature. And that's how simple it is.
Great. Does anybody have any questions?
Oh, I always have questions. Could you go back to the page where it says what other children are living in your household, if you're going to do more than one?
It just has a list down there. It's just asking what other kids are in the household for them.
Okay,
We haven't seen it linked up to multiple students on the family yet.
okay. Just checking.
Being a parent of 4 kids in the district as well, one of the things is we want to have it so if I update my information for, obviously not medical, but all of the other information, it'll be linked to all my kids, so I don't have to go through all 4 kids to link it. So, and when we have this, and again, we're just getting it all set up, but when you would go click on it, your information that's already in the system should already be there. So you don't have to go and retype all of your information. You can just make changes and sign off on if there is anything different, and then just click the boxes for the agreements.
Yeah, I'm going to ask a clarifying question so I be sure we're given the right information. So you're saying that when a parent of 4 children registers, he or she will fill out all of this on the first child, and then the next time it will pop up with the right information?
It should go to,
Okay.
besides the individual
Besides, yep.
questions about medical, for the rest of them, it should already be linked to there. We haven't seen it yet.
We're going to try it before we send it out.
Correct, yes.
We may have a test subject.
Mr. Hamilton's going to try it.
Okay, good.
I don't want to fill it out 4 times.
No, I think that's great. I just didn't realize that we had gotten that sophisticated yet. I'm really glad if we are. I'm really glad if we are. I just don't want us to say we are if we aren't, so great. That's good.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now we have a report on new employee paperless leave, time, and attendance procedures.
We're kind of moving and shaking here, aren't we?
Well,
Some new things coming?
Yeah.
Well, David and I are pretty excited to tell you guys about this new kind of programs we have going for our employees to report their absences from work. As you know, we have a lot of different types of leave that employees can take. And one of the things that we heard kind of loud from employees is, we can't see it real time. We don't know how much we have in our bank, and so that's a real concern. And then what we would have is employees thinking they had something and then they didn't, and it would turn into a situation that wasn't always so positive for them. So we heard them kind of loud and clear that they wanted a different type of a system to handle their leave that was more real time. So what we did is move to a paperless leave and time and attendance systems that we're going forward to. And so the why was really important because we wanted people to know that they heard we heard what they were saying and what they needed from us. So the purpose was the system is to ensure the accuracy, efficiency, and transparency, and additionally accountability of processes to support our employees. And by accountability, we don't mean accountability of necessarily the employees all the time, but sometimes to ensure that myself and my team, are we getting back to them? Are there, all the administrative team, are we getting back to them to timely respond to their needs? Because many times I would hear, well, I submitted that paper, and then I would hear, well, nobody had the paper, so it magically disappears. And that leads to frustration unnecessarily for all kinds of people, and we don't need that kind of environment. So to give you kind of some baseline for where we're at, Greg Anderson, who's our benefits specialist on my team, was processing over 5,000 paper leave forms a year. So now imagine that we have all the employees we have. Every time they have different type of leave form, they had to submit one of those. It had to be signed off at the building. Then they'd typically make a copy there to keep at the building. Then they would send them up here. Then we would have to sign them and approve them and send them back to the buildings and make another copy. So you got 3 copies of the same document. That's 15,000 sheets of paper right there. I mean, we don't need that kind of waste also to be environmentally sound to help us out there as well, but just for what people need. So it's kind of easy. So I grabbed a screenshot here just to show you a little bit. People can go in online and they have a calendar pops up and they can scroll either way as needed, and then they put in click the date and they click the type of absence. It's all drop-down systems. The IT and HR staff spent a lot of time making sure that employee profiles were loaded into the system so their hours would populate, so they wouldn't have to put any of those types of things in there. So I pulled this one off Greg Anderson's. This is what he would see if he goes in, or any employee, no matter who it was and what level they are, they'll all get this screen. And also, the telephone piece was important because some employees are not necessarily comfortable with a computer. So we wanted to ensure that they had another way to do it, or if they were in a place where they didn't have access, say they had a family emergency and they were in a hospital, they don't have access, but they have a way to call in. So they can do it from a smartphone as well. So we've given them lots of different ways to do this. This is the sheet. This is what I'm most excited about. Employees can go into, and this is Greg's, I just pulled it up, and he didn't care that I shared this with you, but this shows all the different leave, we call them buckets, that people have different kinds of leave, and you can see it real time. Before the process was employees, it wouldn't get processed until maybe a month and a half later as payroll came in and everything was reconciled. So now, once it's put into the system and employees can see that it's pending, that it's taken, and what they have left. So it's all real time. So it makes it a lot easier for them to not get confused at what they have left, or to lead to anybody saying, oh, wow, I didn't know I had time left. So it helps them make the appropriate choices for what their life situation is at the time. And here is, wanted to just share with you, this is my page. So you can see what's been approved in the past, what needs to be approved, and just how simple it is. So this would be a screen that would go to Dr. Bruckner. So all she has to click is the green button to approve or the red button to deny, because she's the approver for those of us on executive cabinet. So it's a real easy system, and you can share notes for the person inputting it or the person that may approve or deny if there's a special situation. So we went live with this on April 18th. So we are pretty excited about it. It's been a lot of work. We've done a lot of communication leading up to it, and I appreciate all the feedback we've received from employees, but so far we're doing pretty well, I think, with it. Now, time and attendance is next. This one we're kind of excited about too. And why do we want to go to a time and attendance system? To ensure accuracy of payroll. I also have responsibility for the payroll team, and Many times we have paper timesheets, and those would come in, and they wouldn't maybe make it here, because maybe someone would be out in a building, or they would maybe just not get it sent quick enough for payroll to process it. Maybe they slipped their mind, maybe it didn't get turned into them. So this way, everything, if we go to a paperless system for this, it takes all that piece away. And it makes sure payroll can get processed in a timely manner too. So it streamlines, again, the old paper process just to make things more efficient and transparent for employees to see what they're doing. We're really excited to show you a demo of the little system tonight.
You can do it. It's so much fun. It's right over there. What you see sitting there is a time clock, and this is not unlike other time clocks that are used when people clock in with the traditional time cards. In this case, it's an RFID badge that will allow an employee to clock in and clock out during the day. So Toby's going to show that works, which is like. So that was one of our HR employees, Amanda Hasty, who allowed us to use her card today. I think that just clocked her out because I clocked her in earlier today. So she worked from about 5 o'clock to 7:47 today. What that's going to replace are the paper timesheets that employees fill out that are then routed through supervisors for signatures and stuff and come up here. The other thing that is going to help, and this is anecdotal to my team, I know that I have folks that come to work at 7:30, but they write 8. And I know I have people that stay until 4:45, but they really don't, they're writing 4:30 for their off time. So they're working hours that they're not being paid for. And this is going to ensure that people get paid for the hours that they work, that they're here working, so.
And this is for hourly employees. Are you doing this for salary?
For hourly employees to start with, those are folks who are turning in pay sheets, and those would be anybody who would, the term is just simply hourly, non-exempt hourly. There is the opportunity to use this for other types of folks, for example, teachers who stay after school to work on curriculum writing, or who take tickets at a football game or supervise some sort of event. They're also doing paper timesheets to get their extra pay. So eventually, as we move forward, those folks would also have access to the same type of system and be able to record their extra time that way. It wouldn't be for teachers or professional staff immediately, accounting for their time per se. It'd be more for extra work.
Great. Any questions from the board? Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to our resolutions. Approval of bid for purchase of new serving line equipment for Bloomer Elementary. Do we have a motion?
Move to award the bid for the purchase of new serving line equipment for Bloomer Elementary to Bueller Fixture in the amount of $19,800.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
And we have a second. Any discussion? Okay, Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Ms. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Grove?
Yes.
Dr. Ogres?
Yes.
Mr. Hanson?
Yes.
All right. Next, we have approval of contract with HGM Associates for Wilson and Roosevelt Schools roof replacement.
I would move to approve the agreement between the Council Bluffs Community Schools and HGM and Associates for roof replacement at Roosevelt and Wilson Schools for a lump sum amount of $28,000.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Wilson?
Mr. Grove?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Ms. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Hanson?
Yes.
Dr. Ogres?
Yes, and motion carried. Next, we have policy review approval. Final reading of the following policies and corresponding administrative regulations: 208, gifts to Board of Education members; 223, Board of Directors policy development and review; 227, administration and absence of Board of Directors policy; 228, suspension of policies; 430, employee dress code; 430.1, employee dress code and guidelines regulations; 625, high school graduation requirements; 709, internal controls; 911, relations with parent organizations; 911.1, relations with parent organizations regulation. Do we have a motion?
I move approval of the final reading and policies as presented.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Wilson?
Ms. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. Grove?
Yes.
Mr. Hanson?
Yes.
Dr. Ogres?
Yes, and motion carried. Now we move on to approval of our consent agenda. This includes business items. Greatly acknowledge and accept from Google Inc. the framed photograph of Google's mural installment at the Council Bluffs Data Center. Approval of the agreement with Green Hill AEA for school-based intervention specialist, personal action claims and accounts.
I move approval of our consent agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Wilson?
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. Hanson?
Yes.
Mr. Grove?
Yes.
Ms. Riley?
Yes.
Dr. Ogres?
Yes. And with that, motion carried and meeting adjourned.